Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Product Hour Live. Very happy New Year. I hope you all are having an amazing year. What a great year 2023 has been in the space of generative AI. So many innovative applications, products, and GPTs and chatbots we have seen. 2024 is going to be certainly a year where we see enterprises adopting the benefits of the generative AI and LLMs and RAGs and everything as you have developed and as we have developed and as the community has developed will go into productions, and we will see more and more innovative products, applications in the enterprises soon. So today we are going to talk and show and demonstrate and debate and share insights about the new release that we have had in the past week, AI Actions and Action Server. They're not merely new products that we have released, but are the true catalyst in the way we imagine AI, LLMs, and how it gets adopted in enterprises. I have two amazing gentlemen today joining me, co-founder of RoboCorp and CEO, who is Auntie and Tommy, who will walk us through some of the great insights, demos, and we'll be happy to take some questions from you if you have already started exploring it. It's an open source project. The Git repo is already available. I'll keep sending the links of it during the show. Without further ado, let's welcome Auntie, our CEO and co-founder, into the stage. Hey, Auntie, how are you?
Hey, Deus. Good. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. I know I was supposed to be in Helsinki and we wanted to do this in a studio together, but maybe next time. How's the weather there?
Well, I'm sure you're better off in Bangalore. It's not too cold. It's -2 degrees Celsius, but it's rainy, wet, dark. Yeah, Bangalore is gonna be much better this time of the year.
Indeed. I mean, any time of the year, but that's another debate.
July, we might debate on that.
Probably. Yeah. So, Auntie, thank you so much for joining. Before we get into AI actions, let's try and see from your perspective, how did the last year turn up? What are the events that happened in AI space, and how do you see this going in this year?
Yeah, I mean, it was a long year in terms of AI. You know, if you look back late 22, you know, we just were seeing. I should have had the timeline ready here, but we were just seeing the glimpses of like, you know, GPT 3.5 Turbo, and then we had ChatGPT come out as a, you know, I think as the killer app for generative AI, the first one of those. We saw that, and so LangChain was just getting started, I think, as a project. A lot of the now very familiar project Llama Index as well, you know, that we all use and know, they were still in infancy. And the whole concept about RAG, I think it got popularized during last year. We saw a lot of advancements in Copilot type of technologies. And so, I mean, it was an incredible year for generative AI overall. And of course, like if we go into RoboCorp specifically, we followed the kind of trends and developments in the space. But, you know, looking back, it wasn't, we didn't know, like, you know, we didn't have a term like RAG a year ago in the mainstream. So it's certainly like now it's all yesterday's news. So think about how fast this thing is developing. It's amazing.
Correct. I mean, when we talk about RAG, one of the things that obviously appears is remark, right? Do you see RAG getting adopted in the market? How much of penetration did RAG have in the enterprises?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, right now when you look at the average enterprise company, if they are really forward-leaning, they will have access to ChatGPT. Or well, that was at least Q4 when I was in events and talking to people, like people were like in the enterprise, we were just getting started with having access to ChatGPT, and that was considered to be sort of groundbreaking. I think RAG as such is sort of, it's kind of a table stakes by now. You'll see different kinds of RAG applications popping out here and there. With various levels of success. It's a pattern that's durable for sure. But I still think that it's really just the beginning. It's kind of the first category of really useful custom AI apps that we've seen emerge. And so you'll do like internal policies, internal documentation as RAG, and of course all the developer co-pilots. Like, let's not forget those. I said that RAG is the first category of useful apps. I think the developer co-pilots, starting from GitHub Copilot, are really the first useful, widely spread out applications that we've seen. So, coding assistants, co-pilots, now RAG with information, not, and also information search with embeddings and all that. That's also like a category. But then being able to find the right information, read through the information, internalize it, and then summarize it for you, kind of digest it for you. That's where we are right now in terms of like practical applications. And of course, Remark is one example of that. But I think today what we're going to discuss, and probably next question is going to be about this, is like what's next. Like everyone is thinking like what's next. We already know how RAG
Yeah.
is and how it works.
Yeah. So probably formally asking you. So there is RAG, there is co-pilots. RAG did a great job. Copilot did a great job, and most of it with RAG was retrieving information, which is really good. But what next, and what will really get the value for enterprises? RAG, yes, it's good. Instead of reading, say, hundreds of documents, I got information about one of the bills that I was supposed to pay. But what next? Can I do something else which will help my enterprise user across board?
Yeah, I mean, that's of course the question everyone asks in this space. Like we were asking that question last year. What is gonna be the next step after going into like the basic RAG? And I think there's a question around autonomous agents. Is that gonna be a thing? We certainly think that that's something where the technology isn't really ready for that yet. So getting an agent to stay on course and actually not go into basically off the rails is really hard, and doing something useful with autonomous agents hasn't really materialized outside of like very specific use cases around, I think, researcher GPT, something like that, where it can go and search for research papers and then summarize them in a form. So that sort of agents is something that people are playing around with. But of course, like what we started realizing around, I think it was like mid 23, started emerging this thesis that, hey, what if we could have these AI applications, whether they are agents, whether it's a chat, whether it's an agent, whether it's a just automated thing, whether we can have these AI applications really interact with real world applications, systems, enterprise software with the right security model in place. Like, you see a lot of people trying to say that, hey, let's have an LLM app generate code on the fly and then go and execute it. Well, great. We talk to a lot of people, and especially in the enterprise, there's just simply not a model that can fly. Whereas we said that, okay, what if we prepackage actions, automations, and kind of like business level events that a LLM can use like naturally out of the box and interact with. Could that be a concept that actually carries value? And we sort of socialized the idea inside the developer community, spoke with people, at Lang Chain, for instance, and other companies building for this, and it kind of took wind and under its wings, and we started exploring, and we realized that, hey, actually there's this thing where you want to have a separation of duties between the undeterministic world of the AI and the deterministic world of automation, and build like an interface where these two can interact naturally. So we started building for that path, and I think we're already realizing stuff that we didn't even think of in the beginning. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
enabling a lot of new exciting development patterns and use cases. We'll go into them, of course, later.
Cool, cool. So now, how does this now concretely look? I understand the chain of thoughts, but what are we releasing? What have we released last week?
Okay, so practical terms, what we released last week is a component we call Action Server, and it's
Mm-hmm.
a way of implementing AI actions. And if you kind of think about an AI action as a definition, an AI action is something. It's basically an API call that an LLM or AI application can use. It has an API that's described in natural language with inputs, outputs, and the stuff that the action actually does. And then there are things like, okay, does it carry any side effects? Do you need to have human confirmation before executing it? Then you can pass various tracking information along the API call to provide, for instance, like tracking between the original conversation and the action log and back. So an AI action is something that encompasses, it's like a semantic action, or semantic automation. So it encompasses a piece of automation workflow API calls into a package that an AI can consume really easily. And so the action server now is a way to, build and run and maintain those really easily. So what we did is we took our Python automation framework and we created a new concept called action, which is just a simple Python decorator. You include one package into your project. You say that, okay, this piece of code is an action, and then you define the interface for it inside the code. And then you can go onto your command line and say action server, run, expose, ultimately deploy, etc., where you can have something in matter of a minute run on your computer as Python code and be callable from an AI application. That's fundamentally what the action server does. And Tommy will have demos here for that. But it's a really easy and simple way to go from a piece of Python code into
Mm-hmm.
connecting that to an AI app.
Cool, cool. Now this can run on my machine and get exposed to any GPTs or any AI applications in the world, right? But obviously, but the first question that I will have is, if something that I'm exposing to the external world, especially an AI, how do you think about the security? How isolated is it? I mean, is it going to be usable and searchable to everybody that uses GPT? How's that architecture?
Yeah, so the way we envision these actions to be housed inside enterprises is that they're going to be inside your network, inside the sort of compute where where you can access all your applications that you need to run against all the API endpoints. So say that you have an action that will authorize new user against your own Okta installation. It would be running on your Azure in a container and
Mm-hmm.
exposed to an AI app internally through the API. Now, if you want to try it out and go to a GitHub repo on github.com/robocop/robocop, that's where you can actually go and try out the actions yourself. But there's a simple command line where you can just say expose, and it'll
Mm-hmm.
expose an action to you via a publicly available reverse proxy with authentication token already built in. So you can actually like just try it out of the box, pretty easy and simple. But our whole point about the actions is that first, of course, the runtime needs to be secure. You need to be easily able to deploy them where you need them to run. But the second
Mm-hmm.
thing is that you always want to have the action perform something that's predictable. So we are not going to say that, okay, the AI will go and say, today I want to call into this API or that API. Sure, you could build that, but that's going to be unpredictable. So instead, when you want to have the AI, for instance, go fetch your, you know, top 5 customers by revenue, uh,
Mm-hmm.
it will always do the same calls into Stripe API, the same 5 different API calls, pull the data, combine it, and then return it back in a predictable way. And then you'll always have a like exact trace log of what the action did and what the
Mm-hmm.
conversation was that initiated it. So what the action server also does is it provides detailed line by line logging into the Python code itself. No need to add any code into your Python files whatsoever. Just add the dependency on action server and the decorator, and you'll get the full logging as well that's exposed through the action server then.
Cool, cool. I think this traceability and auditing is quite crucial within the enterprises, because we have seen AI doing amazing work, but it also gets hallucinated, and hence understanding the track in which it acted. And also, since you said that the code is not generated on the fly, the actions are predefined, so you have already built the action, you have tested the action, you have probably went through that good cycle of software development life cycle, and then only those approved actions are the ones which are going to be executed by AI. It just understands the concept and executes the right calls, right? It's not going to generate the code on the fly, which could be very
Yeah.
very dangerous in any scenario.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's really important that we have the actions as predefined. Secondly, they are really fast to run when they are
Mm,
predefined. So they're basically in the action server in memory, ready to go. So when you have like a human interaction with an AI application that needs to run an action, it can't wait for like 10 seconds for something to be generated and then go
mm.
and run that. Even if the code would be right, so you want to have the action run really quickly in the sort of in human time. That's one aspect of the action as well. It needs to be really responsive.
Cool, cool, cool. And before I dig deep into it, one question that appears in my mind is, how does this fundamentally different from what Roboc or Tech Stack already has? Like, you have the ability to automate, on request. You can run it on containers. You can probably connect with API calls from AI applications. What is different now versus what was there until now in the tech stack?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a very good question, a relevant one. So you look at control room and at the processes
Mm-hmm.
that we have there. There's an API for every process. You can push in work. You can get stuff back. Um, that was built as an orchestrator for these RPA style processes. When we
Mm-hmm.
started out with AI, there's different requirements, like real time execution is one of them. That's I think is key. And then really the way we describe the action as well to the AI application is different from a process model. So it's around how we expose the automation through the semantic API, and then how we also can execute it in real time. And then,
Cool.
as an action
Mm.
server, you could even think about it as a sort of a mini control room. Now we are very specific that it's not a mini control room in that sense. It's definitely built for different purposes, but it's a standalone component that you can go and deploy right now in a
Mm.
container or on a virtual machine. It can run on Windows host or Linux host, you name it. But it's a standalone component that you can go and deploy and just run and call into. doesn't need a control room component to manage it, but that's something that we are still going to be building down the road on our roadmap. We think that, you know, when you run these at an enterprise level, you definitely want to have a way to first monitor all of the actions that you have and the action service you have in one place, see the logs, see the performance of them, and then go centrally update all the actions when you need to update them. So right now we are focused on building a great development time experience for developers who are experimenting with AI actions. So you can run it on your laptop, expose it on your laptop. Soon you can easily deploy it as well on a container-based environment. And you can of course do that by yourself already today. And then we'll have the enterprise functionality with linking with control room down the road. But it's separate standalone component. And you know, I encourage people to go and experiment it with no permission needed from Robocop to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually excited to get into the demos sooner so that people can see it in action. But just before that, one question: what could be those scenarios? If you can explain one or two such cases where this could be useful, that it can be used at scale.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we start exploring the things that such concept like an action AI action will allow you to do is you get into like interesting territory where we used to have a lot of this enterprise automation, which is very rigid, predefined, you know, if this then that type of thing. Now what we want to do is, what we can do is we can decouple the individual actions. The actions can be a single API call, or they can be a multiple different, you know, workflows across like complex applications. Okay, it's up to the developer, but we can decouple them from the control logic. So let's take a use case like in employee onboarding. In an enterprise, you'll have, you know, long documents describing how you onboard an employee, and it's going to be a different onboarding depending on, you know, whether it's a developer evangelist in Bangalore, or it's a sales guy in Dallas, Texas, or, you know, somebody in Europe. You're gonna go through different steps. Some of them are common, some of them are different. You know, you need office access, you need expense cards, you need, you know, laptops and all that. So what we take the sort of concept and the manual for onboarding, use an LLM to understand it, and then provide the LLM or the AI application a list of actions that we can take. And so now when I go in and say, hey, I'm employing a new employee, I can give the CV or the JD, the description of the position and the person, and say, okay, what's gonna be the onboarding plan based on our onboarding process, and the AI application can come up with a list of actions that we need to perform with specific data inputs, and it can say, okay, here's my onboarding plan for Teus here. You know, do you agree? And we can then start with the human user running through that onboarding plan and executing it. So we can take highly complex processes like an employee onboarding, break them down into sort of knowledge work assistance for employees, instead of having like uh, you know, a menu of items like create Okta, or, you know, create expense card, and we need to always manually knock them down. And then when we've done a certain flow multiple times, let's say that's the fifth or 10th employee that we onboard the same way, we can say, okay, hey, how about we just handle this fully automatically?
Correct.
So that's kind of the future that this thing will start enabling, and of course, like we don't know what kind of AI apps people will come up with in the next months, but I'm sure that we'll see a lot of stuff where we couldn't even imagine the AI action concept being used in a way that's is going to be used.
Correct. Just double tapping on what you said. The first, at the first level, when AI suggests these are the things that I could do you approve? And then it goes and executes. Probably today there are already automations that happen, but it is so broken in a way that it is at a very granular task level. Yes, like issuing a ramp card or an expense card, probably it's an automation that a lot of people have done, but not as an end-to-end onboarding process. I think this opens up the scope of what we could do. And also, I love the fact that there is going to be that human in the loop, at least in the beginning. But AI can learn from these types of conversations and these types of iterations. And there could come a time where after 10th, 12th iteration, you are confident enough to let AI take over the complete onboarding process, with obviously all the audits, all the trace back, and all the ability to roll it back.
Yeah, oh, exactly. And it can come back with, hey, here's my plan. I've done this 10 times. Do you trust it?
Correct. Correct.
Let's go.
Correct.
So the kind of the we can kind of always have the human validate things that are consequential. Okay, are
Correct.
you sure you want to wire transfer $1 million to this account? Yes,
Correct.
no. You read the actual inputs of this call? Those kind of things will need that human approval just for compliance purposes as well. But if you have like a onboarding plan, here's the approval steps that we need. Are you good with this? Yes, no. We can then delegate that to automation, and the LLM is the engine that powers the logic behind the execution, but the actions are always predetermined, always right, always fully audited, fully traced.
Cool. Okay, so let's get into the demo. Already we have probably defined the concept of AI actions very well, but let's see in reality so that we can visualize it better. Let me call on Mr. Tommy. Tommy is our VP product, joining us again from Helsinki. Thank you so much, Tommy. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for inviting me here, Tejas.
How many times have you appeared on Product Hour Live? Do you know
This
that
is
yet?
my third time. Fourth, maybe. Guessing.
Cool. Thanks, Tommy. Would love to talk more about AI actions and action server with you, but I'll give you the stage more than the talk. Maybe we can continue talking while you do the demo. Really excited.
Let's do that. And I think people are probably anxiously waiting for the demos anyway. So let's get them rolling. I'm at the Helsinki office right now. And there's we're having our engineering event here. So most of our engineering is currently at the Helsinki office. It's busy and bustling next to me. So it's fun time here, and I can guarantee you to all of the viewers here that there are things that we are testing out, hacking together here, together with the engineers, that will be immediate next steps of what you see today. So we are merely in the beginning still with the action server, and we released it as a developer preview, as Antti already mentioned, that these are the things that you can do now. We show what's real and what's actionable today, but this is just the beginning. So we'll have an ambitious roadmap ahead of us.
Cool. Great. Let's start with the new repo, shall we, Tommy?
Yes. Let me just open my screen share here, and we can get going. I believe you should be seeing a screen right now.
Yes, we do.
Yes, you do. I want to start from the new repository in Git. And this is because obviously, as I mentioned, we talk about the developer preview for the AI actions. At the same time of last week when we released the action server, we also did pretty big revamp on our GitHub repository. We collected all the key things of the Python AI actions and automation stack within the single repository, and it's called really clearly now. So there's nothing different than just the company name. So it's RoboCorp repo. We just kickstarted it, so I'm really wish that all of you who are over on the other side of the video would go into the repo and hit the star button, which is this one, because we're in the beginning with this. It really helps us keep these things open source. So you basically find our entire Python 8 automation stack here in one repo. So for example, that folder would contain things to automate Excel. That folder contains the Python libraries for automating your browser with Playwright. That folder has the action server. It's all here, and the entire framework is in one single Git repo, and like a really convenient access point for everything we built. I won't go into details of the entire repo, but it basically goes through deploying the action server on your machine. It will, from the quick start, it shows how to bootstrap a new project and how to run it. And I'm going to do that, not just showing the repo, but I'm going to show it actually live, like what happens. And this is real live demo. This is not a recorded video, so there's always risk that something goes wrong. So then I will ask Antti or Tejas to be talking and faking so that I can hack things together again. But let's start from a clean slate. I don't have anything installed, or any action server stuff installed. So I'm just going to take on my Mac the Brew installer and have action server installed, and it downloads the package. So that was already cached, and it says that the action server was successfully installed. Now it comes with the action server is actually a command line tool, so it is called action server, and it will show you some basic things what you can do with it. You can start, you can import, you can create a new. So if I would say action server new, it will let me create a new project. I have a couple of projects here, so I'm not going to go through the new project bootstrapped phases here. So I'm just going to cancel that one. Yeah, like this. We also have another repository which is called Actions Cookbook. Tejas maybe can post also a link to that in the comments. We've collected a bunch of examples there that it really helps you get started quickly with the actions. And the example that I want to show you today is a database, Postgres or Postgres database actions, and it's actually a set of actions, and that's why I chose this one, because it shows a bit of a variability on what you can do with AI actions and how does it look like when you actually build and utilize them. So let's open our code. Along with the release last week came a new package called Robocorp Actions, and it has the action decorator that basically is everything you need in order to make a Python method, like in this case, customer by name search from the database, being available for the AI chat assistants or AI applications. What's really important here, so first of all, you have the decorator, but the critical part, and I think there was one question earlier, like it was from Carlos saying that how can we guarantee that the LLM will be kind of calling the action based on what it needs? So the really important part is that you have the type hints in Python. So it says that first name needs to be a string. The method or the action returns a string, and then you describe in natural language. And this natural language description of your Python method or of your action is vital, because that is essentially what the LLM is getting out of it. So once you build your actions, describe them in natural language, not just what it does, but also what are the arguments. The LLM automatically will take the key elements from the conversations you're having and map them in the correct way in the right data types based on the type hints. The code that I have here is doing a couple of different searches to database, and this goes back to Antti's point on kind of isolating the AI app, which generates things from your enterprise system. So you probably don't want a AI application to generate, let's say, update code or update SQL statements or anything like that. So with AI actions, you can build, I would also almost call them like primitives. So you create those primitives that are critical to running your business, and then you expose those over to the AI assistant that then knows all the capabilities at hand. So in my set of actions, I have a search customers by name, customer rentals. This is a DVD rental data set that is free and available the link is in the repo, so anybody can go and try the same thing. Has the rental history. It has the availability of the movie in certain stores, and as a final, there's update custom. And I wanted to show this because there's like difference in between the first three. They are all read transactions, so they get some data over to the AI application, and that is consequential false. The flag here means that the user doesn't need to approve every single execution of this particular action. So this first time you use or connect the action server to, for example, OpenAI GPT, it will ask, can I run these actions? But you can say always allow, and it won't ask them again. But if you don't add that, like I have for the update transaction, every time this update is ran, it will ask user for a explicit approval. Can I do this? Can I perform this task that the action provides? So I'm going to show you how that works in practice. We build the actions in Python. This obviously leverages the entire framework that we have. You can do browser transactions, you can do Windows desktop transactions, and Excel, SharePoint, whatnot. So the entire Python stack that we built for automation, it's behind here. So if to a question of what is new and what is old, the entire Python stack is there still, and it's very beneficial for building this and speeding up the build of these AI actions. Now let's put this running. So I say action server start, and it starts the action server locally on my machine. So what happens? What does it mean? First of all, it creates a local web UI which shows all my actions. So my actions are the same as you saw in my code, customers by name and so forth. It stores the data. All the data is locally stored. So it shows my previous runs, how many times I've been running them. I can go see the success and failures of each of the runs. For each of the runs, it stores an elaborate log of what happened row by row with Python. So everything is stored, like you have already for our automation framework. So the same capabilities are here. And what it also did is that it actually created, based on the type hints, your method names, and the descriptions, the doc strings, it automatically created and exposed, well, in this case, created the Open API spec. And this is the critical part in how you then bring the AI actions to the AI application. So the Open API spec that was auto-generated from your code and the action decorators, that's the part that then will connect you to, for example, custom GPTs, and I'll show that next. You can also try out the actions locally. So let's say customers by name. I know that there's a Jill customer, so we can check that out. You can, by the way, see that the action server is running on my terminal here on the side. I can make this a little bit smaller. And let's run it again. Yes, so it ran. So we have a Jill Hawkins, whose email is jill@jill.com, and the customer ID is 159. So this is coming from the database that actually I host on my own machine currently. So that's fine, but still we are only calling Python methods. So what can we do next? Let's go to the next stage. I'm going to kill the action server and start it again, but this time I say expose. So action server start, expose, and do this. And it's probably asking me, do I want to do it with a previous URL? So I just say no, because I want to go all fresh and clean with this. So now it's a bit different output from action server. So instead of just the local host, it also shows you the public URL here, which is 54 ugly emus Robocop link in this case. And it gives you the authorization token, so your API key essentially. These, even though the action server runs on my laptop, are available to the public internet. So you actually have something that you can just connect to the public open AI custom GPT right now. Everything is done. I created it all, which is starting the action server with the expose flag on. So let's try that. So I'm going to copy paste the URL. I'm going to go to ChatGPT, and the my GPTs you can find from your account here. And I'm going to create a new GPT, and its name is rental. Let's say DVD rental. Rental GPT knows all about rentals. And then there's this actions and create new action button at the bottom. Maybe I can zoom it in a bit bigger so that you can see better. So create new action here. Now we have the URL. We just click this one and copy paste or to paste the link, and boom, we have the OpenAPI spec in custom GPT, and it knows that I have these 4 actions available. We also need to add the API key, so I just copy paste that too, and it goes to authentication, API key, which is type bear, and just copy paste it here and save. So now we also took care of the authentication. That comes built in from the action server. I can save my custom GPT. I'm not going to share this to everybody. You can see I'm not going to share it. And we can try out, let's say the same. So get me Jill's details. Of course, it has the capability of the entire large language model in the background. So in this case, GPT-4, but it also has the ability to go against the action server to get more details. And in this case, now you see the user approval. So I can say allow once, but in this case, I want to say always allow. It won't ask that then for these 3 actions anymore. So it talked with my database, gets the details of Jill, and I can say, okay, what did she rent previously? You can see that, of course, it knows the context of your conversation, so you don't need to say, what did Jill rent previously, but it knows it from the context of the conversation. You see that it ran against action server, previously rented the following movies. By the way, the ChatGPT has been a bit slow today, so that the generation of the text has been like this. But then we can go forward. We can say, hey, where is available? Again, it goes against the database, starts at action. It doesn't ask any additional approvals for these kind of transactions. I think it may be available.
But all these 3 actions were 3 different type of actions, right? It's not the same function, but it is the same action server, but multiple actions that are written in that action server.
Correct. So multiple actions within one action package, as we call them. So now let's go to the fun part. Let's try to. This is just, you could say that this is still the same as RAG. You're almost just feeding a bit more information into the GPT, and that's not the fanciest part. But I think that the really cool part is that it can also cause a consequence within a database or somewhere else in your application. So let's, in our case, say that update Jill's email to. It was something like, let's say, Jill at example.com. So if things go correct, it should not allow me to do this without still approving the transaction that it's going to take. So it says that, do you want to confirm? You can go see. This is the input that it will send over to the action. So Jill example.com. This is the ID. Happy. Let's go and do that. So now it allows me to go and run an update transaction against my database. And if I now ask, get me Jill's info, I think we should see that it actually comes from the database and it's updated. So change something there. when it replies. It already did the action, but it is waiting on the ChatGPT side. So we can see that it actually got it back to the ChatGPT. It's just dreaming a little bit on this side. So then we can leave it there. Oh, now it's happening. So that's one. I'll just let's kill the action server and just really quickly show another example. So I'm just going to close this one. I'm going to go into another example. Let's bring this up a bit. So just another directory. I have a browser example. I'm not going to go deep into this, but what this does is that it will open a local Chromium browser on my machine. So even if I would expose this to ChatGPT or custom GPT, it will still be able to open a local browser and perform browser automation on my machine. And think of my machine, it could be your VM somewhere or wherever you want to run it. But for the demo purposes, it's happening on my machine. So in this case, I just, again, action server start expose. And because it's a different package, I will give it a different name. Well, to save time and effort, I'm not going to start it from the OpenAI. You can now believe me that it's possible. I'm just going to open the local user interface. So you can see that there's a search books action. And if you give that action an input, for example, I want books on Python. I want to have only one book on Python and run. Oh, I don't have the right API key. That's
API key.
Yeah, I need to change that. I can actually just do it without the API key. Easier. So now we can say Python 1 and run. So now you can see it opened the browser, performed browser automation, and got back you the Python books from Google. So full run. And then you could go again back to your runs, and you can see your logs, and you can actually see that this was performing. For example, here going to a Google URL and using the locators to get the right information, like the basic automation stuff, as many of our audience have already seen before. That's pretty much what I wanted to show today. There's the release last week also brought an integration to LangChain. So there's a way to bring these action servers and bring them as toolkits to your LangChain project. But that whole area is such a big thing that I think we should have a separate session on LangChain only next, and just really talk about what are the capabilities together with LangChain. So let's pause it here for now.
Yeah, but since we are on that topic, does Action Server work only with OpenAI GPT in the current moment?
No, it works. I actually have it running here with Langserve Playground, and I can show you from the README that we have a tutorial how to do the exact same stuff that I just did in the demo with the OpenAI custom GPTs. But there's also a tutorial how to add Action Server as a toolkit to LangChain, and it's really this easy that you install a package, and then the package is RoboCorp Action Server. There's a bootstrap, like a new project template that you can get from the project, and it's basically one import statement, and then it's adding one route to the action server, and that's it. So you don't need anything else. That's all you need to do in a LangChain project to get the action server hooked in.
Cool. Before we get into some questions, I will also like to mention that this is Remark is enabled to handle action servers as well. When you go on to Remark and under settings, you can start connecting your action servers and get this experience of adding this as another tool in your toolkit. So in any of your chats, when you're talking to Remark, it understands if there is an action that can be used to during your question. So that's also there. Please go ahead and try out.
This is super handy for testing things out. Just plug in the action server to Remark, super quick to test things out. So that's what I usually do myself when developing this.
Yeah. Super. So we had some comments before I take questions. Stefan says it was really impressive, and Carlos loved the fact that the schema was directly imported, that you need not have to put the entire JSON context. Just by giving the URL, it was able to fetch it. So those were some comments. Please keep them coming through. I have a few questions. I have one of them, I think we kind of answered, but I still want to take it up and discuss it further with Auntie and Tommy here. Do we need to have multiple environments, or can you use single environment to run multiple actions or action servers, and how does this play out?
So if I start and Antti can continue, but essentially we use the Robocop tooling that people are probably aware of already. So we use our Python packaging. We are basically packaging the entire Python environment within the action server. So it doesn't use your local environment. So each action server that runs builds its own environment when it starts, heats up everything in terms of the Python methods into memory, and then it's ready for serving your actions.
Mm-hmm. And also
they running like action packs. So here we saw that one action server was hosting multiple actions in the same context that we're able to run. It's still TBD what the best split between like how many instances of action servers and how that's going to be hosted. I expect a lot of this stuff to run on container infrastructure in real world deployments, but then there will be stuff that will be running on, say, Windows VMs. I think you can kind of make the jump here, but all the enterprise people know this. You could have a server run on a SAP UI session, and we have a concept that we're going to be developing forward with, which we call kind of state or stateful action server, where you could potentially have the action server be logged in and ready in a certain screen in SAP, for instance, for entering a purchase order when the request comes in. So you can think about that. So you basically host like a full SAP session behind one action server, or talk about Epic or CERN or any patient data record system. Anything that's slow to log in, you can host in a session. So there will be multiple different ways to split this down into how many action servers you need to host and how you connect to them and how you operate them.
Cool. Hope that answers that question. And as we go through more examples, more use cases, we will also have better categorizations there. Cool. But what's coming next? Like, are there any current limitations? Can people just go and try this out already? Are there any licenses? Are there any limitations that you have to use only some of the RoboCorp packages, or can I try anything that is there in Python?
Yeah, I mean, I can take that. Of course, Tommy can continue, but anything that you can run with Python, you can run in this context. So, of course, we do have a lot of really good automation packages. For instance, the logging module that we provide is excellent for tracing your executions. And then there's the basic stuff that you expect to do on automations is there. So highly encourage using RoboCorp Python automation packages. But then if you find something great in the Python community, feel free to use it and incorporate it.
Cool. So and it could be combination of, say, some of the RoboCorp libraries for automations, and maybe there could be some third-party libraries that is useful for your scenarios. You can obviously mix and match. Comes greatly with all your pips and environments is going to be taken care by CondIML and Robot YAML. All the good things of RCC will also be there. So you will you can focus on the things that matter without thinking about setting up these environments as well. We are almost on time, but I still want to talk a bit about the future. How do you see this? What are the things that are going to come next in AI actions and action server?
So
Tommy,
I
do
have
you
a
want to
view,
take the?
yeah, because I have a view here to the developers who are right now building there. So it's like what's really happening in the office at the office here today and tomorrow is as we were working on the deploy. So you saw action server start, and you saw action server start expose, keeping things still on running your laptop but exposed to public internet. But what we really want to get done next is the deployment, which means that, for example, on Robocorp cloud containers, you could just with one CLI command say that, hey, I want this to run eternally. So you push it to the cloud and it runs there. And of course, there's like a lot of detail that goes into it, but the first version, or like super simple version, that you just get your action into a container somewhere and you can run it. And that deployment, like we really want to focus on making it extremely easy. We see there's loads of examples currently being built on how to connect more capabilities to the open AI GPTs and LangChain projects. People tinker with Fast API, build like custom things with Fast API, try to deploy them to Vercel and whatnot. We want it to be way easier than that. It should be like a breeze. So we're really focusing on the dev experience here.
Yeah, and while you are thinking about that,
Carlos is here saying that took only 30 minutes to get it working and integrate a GPT. So it should be that easy. And we want to make of course, tinkering on your laptop, exposing it, connecting it, done. You get it working. You can use Remark or custom GPTs. Of course, the next step is going to be deploy. And then once you deployed it, you can run it. Then you're gonna start thinking about, okay, how do we monitor, maintain these in long term? How do we scale them? All of that stuff. So that's something that we're gonna solve for people. Of course, right now we're most focused on the immediate developer experience and making sure that people start building and tinkering and experimenting, so that we'll see all the innovation coming from the community. But then after that, we have a lot of plans on how we want to enable future AI applications to be built. And so, this is really the first step. We started our journey in the Gen AI with Remark. There's a question of, does it make process automation easier? Yes. I mean, of course, we have a copilot called Remark. You can go and ask questions and get answers. That's kind of the first stab at the space. Then we took steps to really think deeply into, okay, how do we push the art of the possibility forward in this world of generative AI? And I think now we have a line of sight into, okay, what are the future AI applications going to look like, and what's the infrastructure that we're going to need to run them? So, I would say as a final teaser that, everyone should be on the lookout for some Robocop news coming out in the next day or two. It's going to be pretty interesting and following on this thread.
Cool. Awesome. We are exactly on time now. So any closing thoughts, Auntie Tommy? Tommy, first with you.
No, I think the developers are trying to tease me from there. I think they want to show the action server deploy already. So I teased them before joining the call. I said that, hey, is it ready? Can I show it? But they were still a bit
unsure. Carlos, Microsoft Copilot is gonna be there, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's a great point, Carlos. We are working on so the Microsoft Copilot will require a bit specific manifest file to be generated on the side of the Open API spec, and we are currently looking into that. I don't have a schedule to give you yet, but I can guarantee you that we are looking into it.
Yeah, that'll be coming. I think I'll leave it with just saying, Deus, thanks for putting together an awesome product hour here. Thank you, Tommy, for a live demo. Always appreciate live demos, nothing pre-canned, and it actually worked. So happy to see that. And yeah, I mean, you know, everyone on the chat, thank you for the interaction, and everyone watching this, you know, just stay tuned for some news. You know, we think that this year is gonna be pretty interesting for AI applications, and can't wait to push that out of the possibility forward.
Cool. Thank you so much for both of you to joining and sharing the candid expressions on what's going to come, AI actions and the cool demos. And thank you everybody for joining. Wishing you again a very, very happy new year. This is going to be an exciting year. I hope you all try AI actions. As we always say, action speaks better than words, better than images, and just retrieving information from a website. Yeah, it's already out there. Please give us a star on the report, download the action server, play with it, give us your feedback. We will soon have some exciting competitions around it. We will hack things together as well. So looking forward to see you all again. Thanks you once again for joining Product Hour Live. See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.